Osseo was the son of an Indian chief. He was brave and handsome, and married to the most beautiful maiden who ever walked. Her name was Owini. Osseo loved her dearly. Osseo and Owini lived in the happiest of lives in their teepee on the banks of the Mississippi River. One day, Osseo returned from hunting and found his lovely wife squatting, pale and weak, in front of the fire. Her eyes that had sparkled were bleak. Her black shining hair had become dull and straggled over her shoulders. Her head was slumped over as if it didn't have any strength to hold itself up straight. Osseo was frightened. "You are ill," he said. "I will fetch the medicine man." "No," protested Owini. "Please don't rush away again. Stay with me tonight while I sleep, and perhaps by the morning I'll be better." Osseo stayed. But by the morning Owini wasn't better. She was dead. The tribe took away her body to bury it, but Osseo sat in his teepee. His longing for his beautiful young wife was eating into his heart. He couldn't sleep or rest. He didn't go hunting any more. He didn't join in the meeting of the braves. He did nothing but sit in the teepee, remembering and suffering. One day, when he saw the patterns the sun made on the sides of the teepee, he thought that if he walked in the forest and kept on walking until he dropped from weariness, he might be able to sleep and forget for a short time his terrible longing. He walked all that day and right through the night, without stopping once to rest or eat. On the second morning he came to a narrow rocky valley along the edge of a lake of still water. This place was strange to him, but he trudged along the side of the water until he came to a big flat stone. It was on this stone that finally he sat down. Suddenly, while he was sitting there, he heard voices. Peering across the lake to the far bank, he saw a circle of teepees, and people moving around among them. The voices sounded cheerful and friendly. Osseo shouted, "Come to fetch me, I want to cross over and join you." He shouted on the top of his voice, but even so, it was a long time before anyone noticed him, and at last he heard one voice saying, "Someone is calling from the land of dreams. We'll take a canoe and bring him here." Osseo waited while the canoe sped swiftly across the water towards him. He took his place in it and was glad to sit quietly whilst he was paddled across to the village. After reaching the far shore, he was amazed and delighted to see his wife, Owini, coming to greet him. He knew that he was now in the land of the shades. He was given a warm welcome, and a feast was prepared for him. Owini whispered to him, "I know you must be hungry after your long journey, but don't eat a scrap of food. If you do, you will have to remain here forever." "But I want to stay with you," insisted Osseo. "No, no," she protested. "It's not time for you yet. Trust me, and I will come back with you across the water." Osseo was satisfied with her promise, and although he was tempted by the delicacies that were offered to him, his love was so strong and his faith in his lovely wife so sure that he refused each morsel. They were given a canoe, and Osseo paddled it back across the lake to the Rock of the Spirit, where he had been sitting when he'd heard the voices. After landing, they set off together towards their home. The old chief was waiting for his son. "Father," said Osseo, "I have found Owini, my wife, who was dead, and I have brought her back from the land of the shades." "Bring her to the teepee," said the old chief. But when Owini went into the teepee, nobody could see anything of her except her shadow lying across the side. When the food was set before her, nothing could be seen except the shadow of her hands, raising the food to her lips. Osseo didn't mind. He was happy again. He and Owini went everywhere together, although nobody could see her and wouldn't know she was there except for the shadow that followed Osseo wherever it went. At night the pair of them could be heard in the teepee laughing and talking. There was another young brave in the tribe who loved Owini. He was jealous of Osseo's happiness. He would sit outside their teepee and listen to their voices and to their laughter. One night he heard Owini say to her husband, "Osseo, I am tired of being a shadow. Light up the lamp so that you can see me once again as the wife I was." Osseo hurried to fetch the taper and lit the wick that floated in the oil lamp. And when the flame spurted upwards, he saw Owini in all her beauty. "My wife," he cried out, "at last you return properly to me." When the jealous brave outside heard these words, he couldn't control his curiosity any longer. Having loved Owini, he too wanted to see her again. He opened the flap only an inch so that he could peep inside. Straight away the light went out. He heard a dreadful scream, "It's time!" And then he heard the clatter of dry bones. Hearing the scream, the chief rushed to his son's teepee. He found Osseo dead on the ground. The shadow of Owini had disappeared. They'd both gone away forever, to the land of shades.